Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is March the 9th. I am your host, Karen Bailey. Let me know when you're on. I would love to say hello to you. But until you guys pop on, we'll just listen to some music and give you guys a few minutes before we get started today. I don't know about you guys, but it has been a busy day for this chick right here. So I'm glad it's over. Thankful to have a job. Thankful to be able, to work and be in my right mind and good health and all of that. So definitely not complaining about that, but a sister is ready for some downtime and a little bit of relaxation. You got to take time to allow your body to recharge. You can't constantly go like the Energizer Bunny all the time. That's a myth. Nobody can sustain that for long periods of time. So we have to learn how to treat our bodies right, give our minds time to do a reset. Sometimes it's nice just to not have to think about anything, to just be sometimes. So we need to allow ourselves to just be who we are, just be the person, that you are, without, everybody attaching things to you, attaching assignments to you, needing something from you. Hey, Lindsay, sometimes you just need that time to just be yourself and be unapologetic about it and just enjoy being the woman or the man that God created you to be. So make sure you're getting your downtime. You do for everybody else. Make sure you're doing for yourself as well, because you are your number one player. The number one objective is to stay healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. So we'll give you guys just a minute. Hey, Nancy. Good to see you. Hey, Pam. Look at all y'all. Good to see you guys. Hope you guys are having a great week. Yes, ma'am. Good to see you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully soon. Like I said, we all need to get together and just do some things. And I'd like to consider doing maybe like a paint and sip, maybe at the park for our Sister I Got You group. For those of us, that are in the area, or for those that don't mind driving to Tyler, it would be nice to get out at Bergfield Park, get us some easels, and get us some what do you call those boards, whatever you draw on, and just paint and just listen to music and just enjoy. Canvas, that's the word I'm looking for. Get us a nice canvas and just sit and paint and just talk and just have a good time. So I'm going to be trying to work on a way of doing that maybe for this summer, for those of you that want to get together and just hang out at the park. It doesn't have to be anything formal, just ladies getting together. Men can come, whoever wants to come and just relax, bring your kids, and just have a day at the park. So we'll plan that sometime here soon. You guys, we will go ahead and get started, because I don't like to hold you guys long, because if y'all are like me, I just skated in here 10 minutes ago, and I had enough time to make me a cup of coffee, get my lighting, and turn it on. Okay, so our topic today is not my sink, not my dishes. What we want to talk about today is just basically knowing your place and then staying in your own lane. A lot of times we try to do too much and it ends up backfiring on us. Sometimes we may have the best of intentions, but if we do things out of order, sometimes we make a situation worse, you guys. So we need to learn how to recognize when it's not your sink and it's not your dishes. Everything is not for you to jump into. You have to sometimes step back and get out of the way and let God do what he's going to do. And then taking detours into other people's lives or getting into other people's lanes when you're out of turn sometimes can lead to some bumps along the way. And there's nothing like somebody being in a bad situation and you come along and make it worse because it wasn't for you to jump in that particular situation. We have to be mindful that everything is not for us to get involved in, and we need to learn how to preserve our own peace. because sometimes you can get so deeply involved that you end up upsetting your own household, by getting into somebody else's situation. And make sure you're spending your life being a blessing and not just being a nosy, person, not being a person that has to know everything first that's going on with everybody. Don't be a busybody. Make sure that if you're getting involved in somebody's situation, you're coming in to be a blessing, not the person that gets all the information first so that they can be the one to tell everybody what's going on. Make sure you're in it to be a blessing and not a busybody. And check your motives. Anytime you step in and decide you want to help somebody, make sure you do it from a good spirit and a right heart. Because people that don't do it from the right spirit end up posting everything on social media. They got to tell everybody what they did for somebody, how they helped somebody. If you got to do all of that, recognize that maybe your motives aren't right. Maybe you're doing it just for the attention. And make sure your purpose in the situation is to be part of the solution. Don't add to the problem. A lot of times, we draw from experiences and things that have happened in our own past. And sometimes we are a person's worst nightmare because we're still holding on to residual stuff about what happened to me. And when I went through this is what I did, this, that, and the other. Just because that's what you did does not mean that it's the right thing for somebody else to do. So be careful about throwing your flesh into a situation, and making somebody else end up doing something that they'll regret later on. So make sure you are part of the solution and not an addition to the problem. And when you stay in your own lane, you learn to feel good about yourself. You no longer bring as much judgment on other people because you're too busy taking care of yourself. You're too busy sweeping around your own front door to be worrying about judging somebody else. And that's where we all need to be. We need to be in a position where we stay in our own lane, wait until we're asked to assist or to help, and learn to feel good about ourselves just because we're able to handle our own business. And a lot of times when you're doing that, you don't bring a lot of negativity into that other person's situation. When you already know you're not perfect, that you don't get everything right, that you have, situations that you're dealing with too, you tend to be less judgmental when somebody comes to you about their situation. So that's a good thing for all of us. We need to learn to stay in our own lane and worry about our own problems and work on our own self-improvement. That makes us better for other people. That makes us better equipped to help other people. When you realize you don't have it all together too, then that makes you more compassionate towards them. Okay? And when you stay in your own lane, you allow love and trust to consume your relationship. And you feel better about being around people. And people feel better about being around you. Nobody likes to be around a gossiper. Nobody likes to be around a busybody. They say birds of a feather flock together. Unless you're that kind of person, a person that's always in somebody else's business will get on your last good nerve. Because one thing you've learned about a person like that, if they'll tell somebody else's business, they won't have any problem telling yours. So you learn those things about people. So don't get caught up being that person that just wants to get all the information firsthand and not being a part of the solution. And the first way we can learn to be a part of a solution when we're invited into a situation. Now, recognize me when I say, don't just automatically assume that you need to jump into something. Wait till you're invited. Wait till there is a need. Wait till there is a door of opportunity where you feel like you're qualified to assist before you jump into somebody else's situation. And the first thing you got to do is learn how to be a good listener. Listening and being a good listener is two different things, because a listener will listen for so long and then that mouth is going to start flapping. A good listener is listening for more than just what a person says. They're looking at your body language. They're listening to your tone. They're listening to hear what emotions are coming out of your mouth as you're talking about something. That's a good listener, and we need to learn to be that person. And that good listener will feel things in their spirit as well. And that's where we all need to get to. And by listening rather than giving advice, we are strengthening our relationship with that other person. Because when you're a good listener and a person knows that you see them and you hear them, you're strengthening your relationship. Your bond is going to get stronger because, number one, they're probably not used to somebody doing that. It's hard to find a person that will really just listen to you and really hear you without jumping in, interrupting you, throwing their 2 cents, into the situation. So when you find somebody like that that really is caring and really is trying to hear you and try to understand you, that person is rare. That's a person that you want to get close to, because that person has something that only God can give you. Because most of us, we think we know everything. So as soon as somebody starts talking about something that sounds familiar, first thing we want to do, we want to jump in and put our 2 cents in. But see, you have to learn some restraint when you're a good listener, because everything is not for you to say. Sometimes you just need to be that listening ear, that compassionate heart for somebody else. And let's talk about being a good listener for our children, you guys. Whether you have children, whether you have nieces or nephews, children need somebody to hear them, because they already feel like they don't matter a lot of times, because adults are always telling them that. Adults are always telling them, go do this, go that, get out of the way, go do this, you better do this, you better do that. They don't feel like they have a voice anyway. So when they can actually talk to somebody that's actually listening and trying to understand where they're coming from, that's going to do nothing but cause your bond to be stronger. And that's what you want with your children, because it's amazing what they will tell you if they really know that you listen and that you care. So understand that being a good listener, we must learn to do that for our children, because they want to talk to somebody, but they also don't want to be condemned for what they say. They don't want to be punished for what they might tell you. They don't want to be looked at a different way, especially by their parents. They don't want to disappoint their parents. You have to open that door and let that child know that you love them no matter what they're about to tell you. That there is no way, just like God says about us, there is nothing that can separate us from Him. There is nothing we can do to make God not love us. And we need to express those things to our children and let them know, you may not be doing things the way I want you to do them, but don't think I don't love you. I'm just trying to guide you, but don't ever think that I'm disappointed in you, or that I regret having you, or that I don't love you. So that's important, that we speak those things over our children, where our children are comfortable coming to us and getting some solid advice, rather than going to their friends or someone on social media that might not, they might not mean them any good, or they might not know as much as they think they know, and they can lead your child astray. Okay? And when we are a good listener for our children, we stop trying to tell them how to do everything every step of the way we want them to do it. You have to learn our children. You have to allow our children to develop problem-solving skills. There is nothing more precious that a parent can give a child than the ability to solve some of their own problems, because kids need to be able to think things through. They need to understand the cause and effect. They need to understand their actions have consequences. That is something that's going to help them for the rest of their life. That is something they do not outgrow. Once you teach them those things stick with them. And that's what we have to learn to do. And we only do that by allowing them to speak honestly and openly with us. Okay? And as parents, we have to trust what we've showed our children. Now, if you ain't showed them nothing, you've acted a fool in front of your kids, you haven't been a good role model, you may have something to worry about. But if you're a parent that has done the best that they can do, tried to have a stable environment for your children. Try to teach them right and wrong. Try to help them to be honest, upstanding people. Then you've got to trust what you've showed them, what you've modeled in front of them. So that's one of those things you have to look back at yourself. If you're not trusting your child, is it because of what they did, or is it because of what you did in front of them? So you know how you are, so you're automatically pushing that off on them. Just because you did it doesn't mean that they're going to follow in your footsteps. So you have to make sure that you are able to trust what you've modeled in front of your children. And then we have to allow them to learn from their mistakes. You know, they're going to make mistakes, and we have to allow them to make their mistakes. And that's an opportunity for them to start relying on God. Because if you're always there to solve their problem, what do they need God for? So you need to allow them to learn from their mistakes and allow them to build their own relationship with God. You can take them to church all you want to, but children need to learn how to trust God. They need to learn how to talk to God. They need to learn how to pray to God. You know, you won't always be with them everywhere that they go. So they need to have their own relationship with God. And sometimes you're in the way trying to run everything, trying to tell them how to do this and that, trying to fix everything that they mess up. Get out of the way and let God do what he's going to do. So allow them to have room for God to fit into their lives, okay? And you want them to have someone they can go to besides just you. You want them to have a relationship with God, because God is always going to be there for them. We're man. We're mortal. We won't always be there. So you want someone that your child can count on even long after you're gone, okay? And then we all have to find a gentle but effective way to stay out of other people's drama. You know, we love our friends, we love our family, but that doesn't mean that you get into every situation with them that comes up. Sometimes you have to be the level-headed person and say, look, I'm here for you, but understand I'm not going to get in this. I hope everything works out for the best. Let me know if there's something specific you need to ask me about. I can get you to the resource that you need. But as far as me putting my emotional energy and my physical energy in some drama or some mess, I'm not going to be able to do it. You have to learn to let people know, no, this ain't my sink, this ain't my dishes. I'm not going to invest myself in this, because you waste precious time dealing with somebody else's situation, and they're in control of the outcome. They may decide they want to stay in that situation. And I know we've all gone through that, you know, with a sister or a friend or whatever. You know, she's in a bad relationship, and you put all your energy into, you know, being on her side, ready to fight with her, telling her she needs to get out of that relationship. And then what does she do? After she's wasted 2, 3, maybe 6 months of your time, decides she loves him so much she's not going anywhere. And that's a lesson to us, to allow God to work in people's situations. Hey, LaQuenda, sometimes it's not for us to get in people's drama, because some of the drama people bring on themselves. And people need to learn the consequences of their actions. And you can't come in and save everybody. So we need to learn how to step back sometimes and love people from a distance and let them know, all right, sweetie, I'm here for you for support, but I'm not going to be able to be in the middle of this every day. You need something specific, let me know. If I can't do it for you, I'll try to lead you to a resource that can help you. And learn when to say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to help you with this or that. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Be honest with people. If you can't help the situation be better, it's better that you bow out gracefully and allow them to get to the resource that they need to get to. Don't be so quick to jump in the situation just because you love the person that's involved in it. Sometimes family can be your worst enemy. And then in life, we have to remember not to fill our plate with a bunch of stuff, because a lot of times we don't make room for God in our lives. We're running here and there. We got this going on, that going on, and we don't leave any room on our plate. We always talk about, oh, my plate is so full. What is it full of? What is it that you need to prioritize so that you can make some room for God? Don't fill your life up with stuff and with doing things and forget to add God off in there, because you're going to need him sooner or later. I promise you will, because like I said in the beginning, you are not the Energizer Bunny. There's going to be a time when you're going to get tired and you're going to need God to help restore your strength. Okay? So by being an active listener, you can make sure that you get the whole story before you jump in the middle of a situation. Because a lot of times we jump in something based on limited information, and then our face ends up cracked as we're hearing the truth. While we're all in the middle of it, little pieces of the truth is coming out, and you're thinking to yourself, well, if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have even gotten involved. So that's why you need to be a good listener, so that you can hear the whole story, not just bits and pieces. Okay? And then don't give advice based on your past experience. A lot of things we're not healed from. There's a lot of things that I won't get involved with because I don't want to put my personal experience in the middle of it and give somebody bad advice. You've got to learn to love people enough to not want to do things that will hurt them, even if it's unintentional. If you know that you're not healed in an area, or if you know that that thing still stings what happened to you, don't be over there offering up advice out of your flesh and out of your emotions, because you're not doing that person a service. You're actually hindering them. So make sure that you check yourself and say, you know what? I can't really handle that because I still haven't gotten over that. So let me get you to somebody that's stronger in that area. Don't jump into something when you know you have not been emotionally healed from a similar situation, because you're going to give bad advice every time. You're going to give advice out of your emotions every time. And more than likely, you're going to cause that person to have a setback rather than help them to get through it. So understand when you're not healed. And there's nothing wrong with that. Admit to yourself when you can't handle a specific situation. One thing about life, you need to learn to be transparent and honest with yourself about who you really are. You can't do everything, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. That's why there are other people. Hey, Latoya. That's why there's other people that you reach out to, because where you're weak in one area, somebody may be strong. They may have overcome that, been healed from it 20 years ago, and they are strong and they can help somebody else go through it, where your wounds are still fresh, and you're still asking God to help you forget about some things, help you to stop crying about some things, help you to stop reacting to some things. There are triggers that we have when we're not healed. And so a situation can go on with your sister or brother that can trigger up old emotions inside of you, and then you're acting out of your flesh, and then you're doing things without thinking clearly, and now you've dragged somebody else along with you that's emotional as well, and before you know it, you're going to end up in a bad situation and doing things that you can't run back. So make sure that you don't get into a situation trying to help somebody with something that you're not healed from first. Okay? And then when we talk about being a good and active listener, let's talk about doing that with our spouse or our significant other. Some of us are married, some of us are not. Unfortunately, most people in relationships tend to think that only their feelings matter. They think that they're the only ones that need to be heard. And that's why a lot of relationships don't last, because it's one-sided. One person is overly emotional and doesn't feel like that other person has a right to their feelings as well. But if you're going to be a good listener, you're going to have to respect the fact that while you're hurting, that other person may be hurting too. And they have a right to share with you what's going on with them, just like you have a voice to speak about what's going on with you. You can't have it one-sided if you're going to be in a relationship, because it won't survive. Because one person being the listener all the time is going to be worn out. And that one person not feeling like they're ever heard by their significant other is going to start looking outside of the relationship for somebody to respect them, for somebody to actually have compassion on them and actually hear them and see what they're going through. And that's what you don't want. You don't want your relationship to end up being 3 and 4 different people all in your relationship. I went through that in my marriage. You know, my husband, he was one of those people that he had friends, and he would tell them what was going on with him. And then when I would ask, he would tell me nothing, but then have an attitude all day. So you don't want that kind of situation going on in your life, because it won't survive. Okay? And you have to learn what sink and what dishes belong to you. It's imperative in a healthy relationship with somebody you love to recognize, you know what? I don't need to try to fix this for him. I don't need to try to fix this for her. Because a lot of times, men especially, you know, when a woman brings them a problem, they feel like they have to fix it. Sometimes that's not your sink or your dishes to worry about, sir. Sometimes your job is to listen to her, be a support, be a shoulder for her to cry on, and she'll figure it out later. She just wants to know that you're there and that you're that strong person that she can lay her head on, and that she can count on, that she can talk to when she needs to, and vice versa. We've got women that think that they know everything, and a lot of times when a man is trying to express himself, they're being cut off because these women already got the answer, because they can multitask. You know, men tend to focus on one thing at a time. Women can multitask, and they're just cutting the man off and, oh, this is what you need to do. This is what you should have done this, da 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 da. But he's not really being heard. He wasn't asking you to fix it. Sometimes he just needs you to hear him and understand that he has feelings too, and that he's going through some stuff just like we do. So learn what is your sink and what is your dishes, what it is for you to do. And sometimes you just need to stand back and get out of God's way. Okay? And they don't always need you to jump in and fix things. And sometimes everybody just needs to vent. And we need to recognize that, and we need to allow people to vent their frustrations. Because when it comes to you, you're going to want somebody to hear you. So make sure that you're the kind of friend that you're wanting other people to be. Okay? Sometimes it's just a matter of sitting with somebody and just letting them talk. You know, and sometimes that's healing for them. Sometimes that's all they need. And remember, God does not need our help either. And understand, He wants you to pray for people, but He doesn't want you to think that you can do His job, that you can fix somebody else. The worst thing in the world we can do, you guys, is think we can change somebody or think we can fix somebody because we see what's broken in them. That is not your job. That is God's job. And when we try to take that over, God will get out of the way. He will let you work yourself to death trying to change that person and be disappointed over and over again until you recognize that that is not your sink and those are not your dishes. That is God's job. And we have to start recognizing that with people and stop jumping in and trying to fix people when you're not whole yourself, when you're not perfect yourself. So we don't have the tools to fix somebody else. All we can do is encourage people to be better. That's what Sister I Got You is all about. We encourage one another to be better, but we can't fix anybody. We can't change anybody's mind. We can't make people do anything they don't want to do. We want to inspire you to want to do better because it is a choice. It's always a choice to be better. And so you have to allow God to work on people, and you have to step out of the way and let God do it the way He wants to do it. And sometimes that requires patience that a lot of us don't have. But you're going to have to learn some patience sometimes when it comes to the people that you love, especially when it's your significant other, because you weren't his first. and he wasn't your first. So you're dealing with things from your past. He's dealing with things from his past that have absolutely nothing to do with you. That's why you're not qualified to fix him, because you weren't there his whole life. You weren't there when he was hurt for the first time. You weren't there when he was betrayed for the first time. You weren't there. So guess what? You don't have the qualifications to fix him, and he doesn't have the qualifications to fix you. That's why it's good to be an active listener and allow people to say what they need to say, because sometimes you just need to get that stuff out of you that you've been holding in your whole life because you've been ashamed of it, maybe, or because you feel like you can't trust anybody with it. That's your job as that person's other half, to be the one person that they can trust no matter what. You've got to be that person that they can look at and just break down and cry if they need to, and know that you won't look at them any different and that you won't love them any less. That's part of being in a relationship. And that's where we all need to get to. And then let everyone play the role that they're supposed to play in the relationship. A lot of times, especially as independent women, I'm going to talk about us for a minute. We're so used to doing things by ourselves. But when God sends us somebody, you would be an absolute nut to keep trying to do everything by yourself. Why would you do that? Why would God send someone to you to be a help to you? Hey, Kinsley. And you not allow them to help. And I've seen women do that. I've seen them do it. They want to run everything. They want it done the way they want it done. But God has sent that man into your life. Men, same thing. When you've been alone for a while, you're set in your ways. Being set in your ways is a recipe for loneliness. Because you've got to understand, when another person is involved, things are going to change. You are going to have to change. You're going to have to sacrifice some things, and you're going to have to change your way of thinking on a lot of things. So that's why you have to be careful when you say you want to be in a relationship, because it's going to require you to change. And it's going to make you change in a good way if you have the proper perspective. Because two is always better than one. I don't care what anybody says, because it's so nice to be able to have somebody there that you can bounce ideas off of. Someone that you can say, babe, what about this situation? Help me figure out, what we can do to make things better. There's nothing like having two heads working together to complete something. By yourself, we have to do it until God sends us somebody. That's fine. But when he does send you somebody, please appreciate it. Please don't be so set in your ways. Please don't be so stubborn and so selfish that you run that person off. Because God gives good gifts. If it comes from God, he gives good gifts. So please don't take advantage or please don't not appreciate when God is trying to send some help into your life. And so that requires us to have to bend a little bit. Never be too old to learn, and never be too old to change. And that's my motto in life. I don't care how old I get. I ask God to please allow me to always be able to be flexible and change, and allow me to learn something. I don't want to leave this earth not learning. I want to learn something new every day of my life, because that's what life is about. That life is about growing. And so, don't be so set in your ways, you guys. Understand that when God sends you somebody, appreciate it and bend where you need to bend so that you guys can work together. Okay? So we got to let everyone play the role they're supposed to in the relationship. Let the man be the man. Stop being a control freak. And let the woman be the woman. And if you can't do that, you probably need to stay single. Okay? And you're right, Latoya. We do need to stay in our feminine place. It just seems like I see more women now that almost aren't even in touch with their femininity. And it's really sad. We used to be so proper. We used to be so particular, about things. We used to be so neat about things. And now I see women, they just do things any kind of way. It's just like I don't see a lot of women walking in excellence. And maybe that's just the people that I see. But I used to always, when I was a little girl, want to grow up to be that kind of woman that was neat. My dress was neat. My stockings were neat. Back then we wore stockings, you guys. Stockings were neat. My hair was neat. My purse was always nice. It matched this, it matched that. But I see so much now, it's just like anything goes now, and it's really messing up the dynamics of the relationships. We see more men that are more feminine, and we see more women that are more masculine, and that is the opposite of what it should be. And that's because people have gotten out of their proper roles in a relationship, and that's why you don't see a lot of relationships lasting for a very long time. And then check your motives for doing things. Never seek revenge. Y'all hear me? We're talking about with your spouse or significant other. Never seek revenge or to pay them back. That's the worst thing you can do, is be in a relationship and have all your time and your energy on what they did wrong to you and how you were going to pay them back. You are better off to get out of the relationship if you're not going to forgive. And I'm not saying you have to forget. Don't get it twisted. I'm not going to say forget, but you are not to dwell on that thing. You have to be willing to give that person another chance to get it right. But if you're not willing to do that, sitting around planning and plotting to pay somebody back, you might as well be sleeping with the enemy, because nobody's trusting anybody anymore. The conversation is not going to be there. So communication is going to be gone when you have that mindset of what can I do to hurt them as bad as they hurt me. You may as well step out of the relationship and just let it go if you cannot get back on one accord. And understand that you will never be able to pay somebody back better than God can. God is the ultimate equalizer. You ain't even got to do nothing to people. When somebody has wronged you, God will repay. He says it in his word. Vengeance is mine. I will repay. You don't have to be there to see it, but at some point in that person's life, they're going to feel the effect of what they did to you. So you don't have to spend that time trying to plot on that person that you say that you love, because you might want to check to see if you really love them or if it's more lust or something else, because I honestly can't sit around trying to figure out what I'm going to do to hurt somebody that I really love. I might be hurt by the situation. It might take me a while to get over it, but I don't have time to be plotting on what I can do to get you back, because nothing will make you feel better. And if it feels better, it'll only be for an instant. It still won't take your pain away. So it's better not to even play those kind of games, because when you do that, you let the enemy into your relationship. You basically are doing exactly what the devil wants you to do. And one thing you know about karma will always catch up with you. And karma will never, ever lose your address. Trust me, I don't care where you go. You cannot outrun karma. So when you've done something, understand you're going to reap what you sow. And then learn to recognize, ladies that are dating, learn to recognize early when that guy is not into you. Don't spend all your time trying to chase down somebody. Don't switch roles with him, having to text him first and check on him first. He's not even acting like he even wants to talk to you. He's ignoring your calls. Recognize the signs when somebody's not into you and be okay with that, because everybody's not supposed to be in a relationship with you. Maybe that person was meant to just be your friend. And you have to give them that out. When you recognize that, hey, he's not feeling me the way he was in the beginning, or he's not texting as much, his conversation has changed, give that man an opportunity to have an out and just say, you know what, I can kind of tell, we really don't have the chemistry we once had. This is just me with a conversation. I can see that we don't have the chemistry we once had at first. I think we're just really not compatible that way, but I would love for us to still be able to be friends and hang out. Give that man a way out. That way he doesn't continue to string you along. because he's trying not to hurt your feelings. You have to be woman enough to stand up and recognize, okay, I can tell this guy is not really feeling me. I'm feeling him, but he doesn't feel the same way about me. Give that man an out so that both of y'all can move on and stop dragging each other down this long road that's going to lead to nowhere. Recognize it early. Be a confident enough woman to speak up and say, hey, I recognize this. And hey, do you want to just be friends? There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes those are going to be your best friends. Everybody's not meant to be your boo. So you have to stop looking at everybody that way. And then learn to recognize what is and what isn't, for you to step into. Everything is not for you to jump into, because you will preserve your mental and physical health by being aware of what is not your situation to deal with. You have to learn that if it's not an immediate action that needs to be taken, if it's something that's going to take a while to be done, if it's something that's about two people's personalities, there's no urgent need, there's nobody in danger, a lot of times you don't even need to get in that. Now, when it comes to somebody being physically abused or a child being in danger, this, that, and the other, okay, then jump in there because somebody's life is in danger. But a lot of times you need to step back and recognize that this is two personalities. This is two people wanting their way and nobody's willing to compromise. Don't get in that. That is not your sink. That is not your dish. Don't get in that, because a lot of times you will drag yourself down mentally and physically trying to be in the middle of somebody else's drama. Learn that if nobody's in physical or imminent danger, sometimes you just need to stand back and watch that situation for a while before you decide to step into it. And then too often we take on battles that don't belong to us because we're tempted to be the one who saves the day. We like to be the hero all the time. We want to be the one that everybody pats on the back and recognize for being the one that showed up and supported this, that, and the other. But there's nothing wrong with being supportive, and there's nothing wrong with being there for somebody as long as your heart is in the right place. So we have to take the time while we're in the midst of helping somebody to make sure we're hearing from God and making sure that we're not doing too little and that we're not doing too much, because sometimes we just go over the top and God is not in that. So make sure while you're in the midst of helping someone, make sure you hear from God, because God will tell you when to retreat from a situation if you listen. God will tell you when to focus your attention on somebody else that's in the situation. Maybe it's a child that, nobody is being considerate of that child's feelings while the parents are going through some drama. God may put your heart to spend some time with that child because that child needs somebody. Okay? And God will tell you when you're being a help or you're being a hindrance. But you must listen to the Holy Spirit and make sure you're not doing things out of your flesh or just doing too much because you're trying to control what's happening. A lot of times we try to control and have an outcome even in somebody else's situation because we're control freaks. So we have to be careful about that. And we must always remember, whatever the situation is, we have to pray about it and we have to ask God that His will be done in the situation. Not mine, not what I think should be done. But we want to ask God that God help me to help this person in this situation so that your will be done and that everybody will be in acceptance of what you decide this needs to be. Okay? And listening to God will tell you three things. It'll tell you when to advance, which means it'll tell you when to make a move in a particular direction. Because with anything, timing is everything. You can do the right thing at the wrong time and make a big mess out of everything. So listening to God will tell you when to move and when not to move, which direction to go. The second thing listening to God will do, it'll tell you when to hold up and back off. And God will sometimes say, stop, hold on. because God might be in the middle of working something out, and when you put your 2 cents in, you messing up what God is trying to do. And maybe God is trying to break something in that person. That's why they're letting them suffer the way that they are, and we're trying to jump in and alleviate their suffering, and God is saying, get out of the way. No, I need to break them down because I need to build them back up. So sometimes we're in God's way trying to do too much, because we all in our emotions thinking we know what to do and acting out of pain. Okay? And then also God will tell you to hold up when, like I said before, when you're not healed, and then your emotions are all over the place and you're not thinking clearly. Sometimes God will back you up like, you're not the one. You're not the one to help them, because look at you. You already all mad and acting in your feelings. No, you're not level-headed enough to assist them. So the Holy Spirit will tell you, no, you're not the one. And number 3, the Holy Spirit will tell you when to pursue. And when I say pursue, it's when to show up and when to show out. When to be bold and not be afraid to make decisions or even change your direction. That's why you have to listen and hear from God, because there's a time to sow. There's a time, that you have to do certain things, and then there's a time where you have to sit back and just watch God bring the harvest. And so you have to be in tune enough with God and not wrapped up in your own emotions, your own feelings, so that you can think clearly, so you can help someone to get to a better place in their situation. And my final thought, you guys, is going through situations sometimes, especially rough situations, is something we all have to experience. But remember, when you're going through, you have to strengthen your body. You always have to strengthen your body. There's nothing worse than going through something and not eating, not drinking, not sleeping. When you do that, you make your situation worse. When you do that, you leave room for the enemy to attack your body. And when he's attacking your body, you can't think clearly, you can't make good decisions, and you can't focus on what you need to focus on in order to move through that situation. And that's a lot of times why, at funerals, this, that, and the other, they're always trying to feed you, because old people already know. And they know that your body needs to be strengthened, because that grieving process takes so much out of you. It zaps your strength. So you've got to get that body built up so that you'll be able to handle it, because people grieve for different periods of time, and you need your body strong, you need your mind strong, you need your spirit strong if you want to make it through it. Okay? And then the enemy wants you weak, because that makes you confused and you don't make good decisions. So get your rest, because a tired mind is a weak mind, and a weak mind is the devil's workshop. Evaluate the situation before you jump in, and don't be afraid to say to someone, this is not my sink, this is not my dishes, and learn to move on. You must always preserve your mental health and your peace. Thank you guys for watching. Love you guys. I hope you got something out of that, and I pray that we all continue to just take care of ourselves. You only get one body. You only get one body, and it's up to you how much stress and wear and tear you allow on this body while you're here. So let's make it, thank you, Miss Latoya. Let's make a habit of preserving our energy. Go hard for what you got to go hard for, but that stuff that may not be your sink, may not be your dishes, back up off of that, because a lot of stuff gets better in time without you even putting your 2 cents in it. So make sure you know the whole situation. Make sure that you've stepped back long enough to see things for what they are before you jump in. God bless you guys. I pray you guys have a great week. Take care. Stay safe. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.